What's going on, everybody? It's Aurora coming at you with a brand new video, and tonight is going to be fun because we just got 7 new cards revealed for Gimmick Puppet and Infinite Forbidden. And keep in mind, Gimmick Puppet is a deck that I have a bit of a bad relationship with. It was by far the worst Sleeper Sunday experience I've ever had because it's just so bad. Between all the different locks and restrictions and just how clunky it feels overall, it is so bad that it makes the whole joke of like, oh, branded players locking me with Puppet, but I'm playing Gimmick Puppet. It's like, yeah, you're still gonna lose because Gimmick Puppet is so bad. Like, it was genuinely the worst deck I played in a series with Ghost Rick, Pure Adventurer, and Armed Dragon XYZ Ojama. And it was, I'm pretty sure, the only deck in the entire series where I handcrafted the custom cards for it instead of just saying what it needed because it felt so bad to play. And I know that's probably going to offend some people that do play Gimmick Puppet out there. You probably play the deck better than I do if you played it long enough, especially because this is a very popular deck. In like 15 minutes, the JP account post pre-translation got like 3.4 thousand likes. But I'm hoping that with another wave of support for this deck and 7 cards at that, let's hope it doesn't disappoint this time, because the last cards they were fine, but like they really did not do enough. So I'm not gonna waste any more time. I was gonna have a cup of tea for this, but I forgot to brew it early. It's like right behind me, so it's still steeping. But let's go ahead and dive right in. It says a true entertainer knows exactly what his fans want. So first off, we have Gimmick Puppet Little Soldiers. Is a level 4 Dark Machine with 0 attack and defense. You can only use the first effect once per turn. If it's normal or special summon, you can send a Gimmick Puppet monster with a different level from your deck to the graveyard and copy its level, and you can banish it from your graveyard and target up to 2 Gimmick Puppets you control, and increase their levels by 4 until the end of this turn. So it basically turns Humpty and or Terror Baby into level 8s, which is pretty neat, and then also this is just a straight up upgrade to Scissor Arms, which you already didn't play, so that does make it better. I'm glad that it says normal or special summoned at least, because Terror Baby has to be normal summoned to get its effect, so you'd rather get that most of the time. So if you have a way to get this, like I don't know, off a Humpty Dumpty, if you got that or something, I don't know, then that can be pretty good. But we always love some Dreary Doll setup. Next up, we have Gimmick Puppet Bloody Doll. Oh, I can't wait for Ruddy Doll in the TCG. It's a level 8 Dark Machine with 400 attack and 1400 defense. You can only use each effect once per turn. You cannot special summon from the extra deck the turn you activate either of its effects except Gimmick Puppet, so there's another really harsh lock like always. If it's in your hand, you can reveal Gimmick Puppet Xyz monster, reveal 1 Gimmick Puppet Xyz monster in your extra deck, and special both 1 Gimmick Puppet from your deck with a level equal to the revealed monster's rank and this card, and if this card is sent to the graveyard except from the hand, you can add it to your hand. Okay, now we're talking. This is actually an insanely good effect. I mean, it reveals a Gimmick Puppet in your extra deck to get 2 free bodies, including 1 from deck, and that could end up being like not the Terror Baby, but like the Humpty Dumpty or the Little Soldiers, because those trigger on special summon, which is really good, and you can still get this body on board on top of having a level 4, which means it's fine if you have the link too. And I love that it recycles itself so that you can use it over and over, which is really, really good, and you're not really going to be sending it from hand, so it's basically a non-important restriction. Really good card, actually. The final main deck monster is Gimmick Puppet Cattle Scream, which just looks like Destroy, but it's a cow instead, I guess. It's a level 8 with 2000 attack and 2000 defense as well. They really were rushing this because there's a lot of typos. And you can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. You can attach a material from your monster and special this card from hand or graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. Ugh, pathetic. Goblin does so much better. And the Gimmick Puppet Xyz that has this card as material gains this effect. Once per turn, you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and special it to their field in defense position. So it's another extender, which is pretty good because you can use a lot of different engines in this deck to get your rank 8s and stuff out, like the Dangers, for example, and also Astral Kariba. So that's a really nice way to get another level 8 body on board without having to already control specifically a Gimmick Puppet at least. And then the second effect is a little weird, but you can absolutely tell if you like play Gimmick Puppets or looked at it, that it's mainly there to get strings, dark strings, and then Giant Grinder and Hunter live, because they pop things and then burn depending on the monster. Could have been a better effect, not gonna lie, especially because it's not like they have stealing or anything. But other than that, it's a fine extender. Next up is their first new Xyz. We have Gimmick Puppet Fantastic's Machina. This is a Quattro looking dude, which is cool, or 4, whatever you want to call him. It's a rank 8 with 1500 attack and 3100 defense that requires 2 level 8s, and you can only use the first and second effect once per turn. You can attach 1 material from it to add a rank up magic spell from deck to hand. Also, during your main phase this turn, you can normal summon an additional machine monster, and if you special summon a Gimmick Puppet Xyz, you can special it from your grave to either field in defense position. Then you can add a rank up magic spell from your graveyard to your hand. Wow, okay, this actually seems really cool. I mentioned that Terror Baby needs to be normal summoned, so you don't really want to normal summon a bunch of other things, but this actually just completely bypasses that restriction. This adding any rank up magic is really cool, even though I'm pretty sure they're not getting their own rank up magic here, which is annoying. That's one thing I did want them to get, was their own rank up magic. But you can of course use this to grab Numeron Force, Quick Chaos, or Argent Chaos Force, which is cool, especially because I know this does have a CXC's version. And then this is again to fuel the Gimmick Puppet Giant Grinder and stuff, mostly because Giant Grinder says if it pops an Xyz specifically, it burns equal to its attack, but also because you're adding a rank up spell back from grave to hand, you can go into Giant Hunter instead, which can pop any monster after you use the Gimmick Puppet Giant Grinder on this. So you can get basically like 2 different monsters on board to pop and burn with the Cattle Scream and the Fantastic's Machina, which is really cool. The CXC's version is CXC's Gimmick Puppet Fanatics Machina. I honestly can't tell what the actual names are at this point. It is a rank 9 with 3100 attack and 1500 defense that requires 3 level 9s, and you can only use the first, second, and third effects of this card's name once per turn. If it's special summon, you can add a Puppet Trap from your deck to your hand. You can attach a material from this card to special a monster from either graveyard or your opponent's field in defense position, and if a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, you can target one of them and destroy it, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half its original attack. Alright, so they're definitely really leaning in with giving your opponent monsters and popping them to deal burn. Like, this is going to make it a lot easier to OTK, but I really like that it's a massive 3100 body, which is really good because I know it's CXCs and a lot of their CXCs are like this, but that's still really nice. This adding a Puppet Trap is actually really cool because I know they got a new one, which is actually a Disruption apparently, but I know they have that old one as well, which isn't bad. It's basically like a, oh god, what was it? It's like an urgent schedule, but you have to, like, I think have less life points and stuff, which is weird. But I know there's ways to, like, work with it. And then this, thank God they didn't say quick effect. I saw someone, one of my friends was saying that it was focused on giving your opponent a Nightmare, which would be funny, but no, you don't want to give your opponent Nightmare here. You'd much rather just give them something that you want to pop and burn. So that's 3 different things here that we can pop to burn them, and that's really cool. It's kind of unfortunate this is only half though, but I guess it'd be a little too easy to kill them. The new field spell is Mansion of the Underworld Dolls that says you can only activate 1 per turn. On resolution, you can add a Gimmick Puppet monster from deck to hand, so okay, just follows the generic trend of a Rhoda field spell. Gimmick Puppet monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle and are unaffected by your opponent's activated non-Xyz monster effects. And once per turn, you can attach a material from your monster, then target 1 Gimmick Puppet in your grave to special it to your opponent's field in defense position. This is really good. So it's a Rhoda, which is really good because you got that little soldiers now and that brand new double body, which is huge. You also have battle protection, which is good for some of your smaller monsters, especially if you put like Giant Grinder and attack. But also being a mini towers is kind of huge because most decks aren't playing Xyz, and if they are, it's just Zeus, which means they have to use their battle phase anyway. And then this is another way to get a monster to your opponent's field. And keep in mind, Giant Grinder is a twice per turn. So you can go Giant Grinder pop, that's 2 burns, and then you have Giant Hunter, which is another pop, and you can like use the new cattle to summon another body, and then Fantastic's Machina can summon to the field, and then you can pop again with a second Giant Grinder. You can easily burn for game on the first turn just from the stuff we're seeing already, and we haven't even read the trap card yet. Finally, we have Serviced Puppet. It is their brand new trap card that says you can only use each effect once per turn. Target monsters your opponent controls up to the number of Gimmick Puppet Xyz monsters you control and take control of them until the end phase. And if you control a Gimmick Puppet Xyz monster except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it and target an Xyz in either grave and special it to their either field in defense position. Finally, a disruption for Gimmick Puppet. It actually feels really good having something that isn't just Regulus. Granted, it's like the only one they have here, and it's not like the strongest one probably, because you're most likely not going to control more than 1, maybe 2 Gimmick Puppet Exceeds monsters, so you're only going to get 1 or 2 steals, but that might be enough in certain situations. I still really feel like the deck feels a lot better going second though, but I don't know, with all this burn, it might just serve very well as a going first trying to FTK deck, which is really funny to me. But with all that being said, what do I think about this new support? I think it's actually really cool for a deck that sucked before. I think it's really interesting how they decided to just completely go all in on giving your opponent monsters so you can pop and burn with them, so, which is, I don't know, that was like one of their like the niche kind of gimmicks because they just happen to have 2 monsters that both popped and burned, but now they're really wanting you to completely focus on that, which can make it really easy to OTK, or it can make it easy to actually burn significantly going first. Little Soldiers is pretty decent, being able to copy levels and also get a send at the same time, while also being able to turn your level 4s into an 8 in a pinch if you really need it to. I love Bloody Doll. This card is just ridiculously strong. Being able to get 2 bodies and add itself back to hand is really good. And then Cattle Scream is a bit interesting. I really like its extension, also like its artwork. That's really gross. But I like the second effect being able to go into the new gimmick, I should say. I don't want to call it like the old gimmick, but you know what? Holy shit, they actually got a gimmick. I just realized that. They went from a generic rank 8 deck to a deck with an actual gimmick. Good job, Konami. I love that Fantastic's Machina actually manages to be a card that starts and extends your plays instead of just being like a pop or something like that, like a lot of old cards were. It actually leans into being an extra deck monster that you want to go into to extend further instead of just being like, oh, I'm going to summon Giant Grinder, pop 2 monsters, and pass turn. Not to mention that second effect is really strong as well, and getting to add back a rank up magic, some of which not being a once per turn, if I recall correctly, is really good. And then Fanatic's Machina here is really cool, adding a puppet trap, also being able to get that double summon, or not that double summon, but like that summon on top of having the pop and burn. Really cool. The field spell is just kind of crazy in my opinion. I mean, between the battle protection, the unaffected, also being able to search for a gimmick puppet like the Bloody Doll, this can just start so many combos and make it really hard for your opponent to get past you, and it lends even further into the burn. And then finally, the new trap. It's not the greatest thing in the world, I'll admit. I also think that the second effect might have been a bit overkill, but the first effect is pretty cool, and I do like that they at least got something to go first, because otherwise the deck just could not do it. Do I think this is going to make Gimmick Puppet meta? No, not at all. But I'm glad that this is actually competent now, and it's probably a deck you can actually take to locals without being exactly Nebula Neos on Twitter and see success with, because you can do something. They have a game plan they can play. Overall, I'm really excited to see what people do with this deck, and I might even actually give it a second chance after the Sleeper Sunday and a second replay video once these hit 80, but I don't know, that's just my opinion. Let me know yours down in the comments below, because that's gonna do it for the video. If you liked it, please sure to leave a like, as I'll put this video and the channel into the YouTube recommended, and if this content was more like it, like the rest of my review series, then perhaps consider subscribing and turning on notifications, because support your channel or anything else, and it's absolutely free. Also, we're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. Also, to support directly, we're going to have some awesome TG merchandise in the process. Check out Tapio cards, link down below. Use code Aurora5 for 5% off your purchase at checkout and support me financially. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.